everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be doing a shoreline. This painting I did actually I think a couple years ago in acrylics, and I wanted to remake it on a larger canvas and show you guys how I do this in oils. So it's a really simple painting, and we've got like a nice pink sky, a little bit of like a teal blue water rushing onto the sand, and I just really love this painting and I hope you do too. So yeah, we'll just get started. I think I may update this a little bit and put in more of like that pink purple sky into the water, and then maybe add some clouds up here too, but we'll just kind of see how it goes. So yeah, let's get started. Okay, so for this painting I am using natural earth paints. They are oil paints. You have to mix them yourself, but I really love the pigmentation. I love that you have the control over the consistency, but if you don't have those, you can use any oil paints. I'll recommend some in the description below, but I'm just using white, a red, a yellow ochre, and a blue, and then I also have a green. So those are the 5 colors that you'll need for this painting, but I will show you how to mix them as well. So I just prepping videos and I was taping on what I want each one to be. And then I've also gotten into the habit of wiring my canvases before I start painting. This way, you know, I don't have to worry about like the screw not going into the wood, and I can just make sure that's all done, and then it's easier to hang, and oil takes a while. So if you wanted to even like hang it, as long as there's no paint on the back, you could hang it up to dry too. So, okay, so I'm going to be taking a palette knife, and for this painting, I would just recommend that you have maybe some square brushes, a palette knife, a round brush, and then if we do some clouds, or if you add clouds to your painting, get like a nice kind of fluffy brush. This one I got at Michael's, it's Artist Loft. And then all the brushes that I'm going to be using, they're just from like variety pack brushes. There's nothing like crazy or fancy here. But yeah, and then even like a slightly larger and the round brush too. Slightly larger flat brush and round brush, but you can use whatever you have. So, but this is primarily what I will be using. So yeah, we will get started. First I'm going to mix up my paints beforehand, so I'll start by mixing up a light blue, a light pink, a light kind of like tealy turquoise color, and then a sand color, and then any like tone that we need in between we can just mix as we go. So, but we'll mix up these like 4 colors for now. Okay, so I just moved you to the art cart here. Oh, this is my burnt sienna. So for these paints, actually, I store them in jars since you have to mix them yourself. I'm actually running low on all of these, so I may have to remix soon. But basically, they send you powdered pigments, and then you add oil, and then mix them. And you could like store them in tubes. They sell tubes or jars. But let's go ahead and start with a nice light blue. These paints are all very thin. I've mixed them pretty thin. You could add pigment to make them thicker, or you could add water, or not water, sorry, oil to make them thicker, thinner. I'm gonna mix up a nice soft light blue. So I'm taking white, my blue. I'm gonna take a little bit of red. Because it's almost like kind of a purpley blue, so we're gonna make it a little bit more purple just by adding some red. Okay, and I'm just gonna go maybe a tad lighter. I think I maybe put in a little too much red, so just a tad more blue. Okay, and then that is going to be our first color, and then we're going to go and make a nice pink, and I'm just going to use the color that I have already on my palette knife, plus more white, and then more red. And then I'm gonna go in with a little bit more white because I just want it a bit lighter. And I like this color. I just want a little bit more of it, so I'm gonna make a little bit more. Okay, I'm just gonna move that over to the side there, and then I'm going to make a kind of like a teal watercolor, and I'm gonna scrape as much of this off to the side as I can. And I'm gonna go in with the same palette knife. I'm gonna go in with white, some green, and let's see where that takes us. So this is a really, really pretty color. I'm gonna add more white. So one of the benefits to mixing your paints ahead of time is that you can see how they all look together side by side, and I really, really like this color. Okay, so I think that's probably good enough for now. Just gonna move this over to the side, and I will be remixing these kind of as I go. Actually, you know what, this is a little bit maybe too blue. Let's make it a little more green. I'm looking at my photo again, and make it a little bit greener. There we go. Okay. But you can mix up your colors however you want and use whatever colors you want, but it's nice to kind of see them all together and see how they look like when they're all right next to each other. So I'm gonna use the same palette knife. I'm not even gonna clean it off. I'm gonna grab basically whatever is left of my white here, and then grab a little bit of this yellow ochre. I'm gonna mix that up. Let's see where that takes us. Okay, this is a little bit too dark, so I'm gonna grab more white. Okay, so I think this is a good shade for the sand, so I'm just going to move it over. I don't want it to get too close to that blue, because I don't want green sand, but I think this is a good shade to get started. So we'll get started with these colors, and then we'll just see, and I'll be making up more of these. This probably won't be enough to paint the whole canvas, so I'll be making these as I go, but this is how you mix the 4 main colors for this painting. And then any other colors that we mix, I'll probably mix on canvas or bring you back here to the palette and mix it on the palette. I'm going to start with the sky. I'm going to go top down and blend everything together. So I'm going to be using a big square brush. This is from Artist Loft. It's 3/4 of an inch, and I'm just going to start with the sky. This color underneath, this is acrylics. This is a light wash of burnt sienna on canvas. You can start with a white canvas, that's really fine, or you can do a nice like underpainting, and that will just help, like if anything shows through, you'll see like a brown or an orange, especially in like these little divots of the canvas, where you can kind of see like the texture coming through. You'll see this color instead of white, which I just think is nice, because sometimes if you get like, for example, I painted this on white, and you could kind of see there's like a little bit of white showing through, like right here. and so that just kind of prevents that from happening. Okay, so we're going into our first color, that is the purpley blue that we mixed up. I'm just gonna spread this all the way across, and I'm gonna go maybe about until like here-ish, and then start to kind of transition. And then, personal preference, but if you want, you can paint your edges, your sides. Now I'm gonna start to kind of make that transition. So for me, I'm gonna do like some streaks of this purple, and then I'm gonna dip with the same brush. I'm not gonna clean it off, go right into the pink, and then go over these streaks that I just put down. And I'm just gonna blend, and then while you're blending, it's a lot easier to do your sides during the blend, as opposed to saving them. And then just gonna go over that line between the two colors a few times, and we're gonna bring this pink. Okay. So with oils, they take a little bit to dry. This will probably, since these paints are very, very thin, it'll probably only take a couple of days to dry. But if you make your paints thicker, it will definitely take longer. Okay, so, and then always keep a paper towel handy when you're doing oils. It's nice to just kind of take off a little bit of the excess paint. So I'm gonna go into the water now, and I'm gonna go in with that blue. So I just wiped off the paint, but as you can see, there's still some paint on the brush. Which is totally fine, because I like when the paints mix throughout the canvas, and using a brush is a good way to, like a dirty brush is a good way to do that, because it helps the painting stay cohesive. So we're gonna go into that blue, and I'm just gonna go straight across. This is like our tealy blue, which this color is a little bit more blue than in the photo. And I'm just using the edge of my brush to go straight along the horizon line. You can either go like this and use the side of your brush, or kind of use the top of it and kind of like pull down. Okay, so I'm gonna bring this a little bit further, and then I want to start pulling more pinks and purples from the sky into the water. Okay, so I'm gonna grab a little bit of purple, and I'm just going to kind of start streaking it through a little bit. I'm gonna blend that. And then just keep going. I'm gonna go down more with blue. So I'm gonna mix directly on the canvas. So I'm just gonna be taking white and then just like directly going into this color that we have. So I'm going in with the blue. And I'm gonna leave a little gap right between these two waves, because we will fill it in with a little bit of a shadow color, and then we'll go in with the water, like the bubbles of the water. Okay, I'm gonna mix in a little bit of pink and some white. And I'm just blending directly on canvas. And just so the goal is that this shade here is a little bit lighter than this one. Thinking I still want more pinks and purples brought into the water, so I'm gonna go back in and add that. Okay, so this I'm pulling in a little bit of that pink color, and I'm gonna pull in a little bit of purple as well. And there's that purple into here. And then I kind of want to do the same thing up here. Okay, so now I'm gonna do this thin line that we left in there. So this is gonna be a shadow color. So basically we want to mix the same color that we did, but darker. So for that, I'm gonna be taking like that much blue. This right here is just excess paint that I had rolled off my brush, so I'm going to be using this and taking a little bit of blue and a little bit of red. Oh, and my paints are dripping, so I'm just gonna mix that in there. A little bit more red, and then that will be our shadow color. So it's basically the paint that we had on our brush plus a little bit of red and a little bit of blue. And you could use the same brush if you want, or you could switch to a smaller one. And I'm just going to follow this curve. Wrap it around all the way to the edge. Going to wipe off my brush. We're going to line it up right at the edge, but just a little bit higher, and then pass the brush over to kind of blend those colors. And I wiped off my brush again, and I'm just gonna do that one more time. And then I'm gonna take this and then just like really lightly pull towards the sand. Just kind of like feathering it a little bit and wiping off my brush to get rid of some of that light color. Just kind of like pulling it down. And then smoothing it out again. And that's it. And then we're going to put in the sand color, and then we'll leave a gap again, and then we'll repeat the process. I wiped off my brush on the paper towel, but there is still some color there, and that's okay. So I seem to have forgotten to leave a gap, so if you don't, that's okay, you can edge and go over it. It's not a big deal. Okay, so now let's go through the same process. So for the sand color, I'm gonna put the shadow should be on the sand. So I'm gonna go in with the yellow ochre on my brush, and I'm gonna put like the teeniest, tiniest dot of blue. That in. There we go. And then once we add in this water, it'll start to really take shape. So the nice thing about oils is that the paint is still wet, so we can go through and add in these light foamy parts, and it should blend fairly easily. So we can go in with white, and we can kind of start to just kind of like dot it along the edge in like an organic and like easy kind of way, and the paint just like kind of blends as you touch it onto the canvas. So I am using a small round brush for this, and then I'm also going to dot along this line exactly how I did up above. Okay, so then going back into the white, I'm going to start pulling this paint exactly how I did on this one, where you can see the lines kind of like pull straight back into the water. So we're not going to go on this angle, we're just going to go horizontally and kind of follow that horizon line. So you can go from left to right or right to left, and just lightly pull the paint into the ocean. So we're pulling these little water, little bubbles into the ocean. And then on this one, you can kind of see it, like these white foamy bits fade all the way to the next wave, pretty much. So, and as you're going through, you can kind of like roll your brush as you pull it, and that kind of like removes like the paint. It like applies more paint and more of like an organic kind of a shape. So you can go through with a smaller brush. You can also go in with a larger brush if you want, and you can kind of like stamp it into the white paint, and then you can kind of go on an angle and kind of like pull. And this is a little bit of a quicker method. So you can go through with this first. And then for clouds, I find it easiest to blend with something like this. I'm just gonna lightly blend these together, going in a circular motion, and I'm going counterclockwise, which is the motion that I imagine the clouds are moving, like this way. So if your clouds are facing the other way and you put your light source over here, go clockwise. Go whichever way the clouds are moving, basically. And I'm like just like lightly touching the brush to the canvas. There should not be a lot of pressure here at all. If your colors are basically becoming one color, you're pressing too hard. So just kind of like lighten that up, and if your brush sheds like my brush does, just kind of peel that off. And then I feel like clouds are all about like the changes in value. So you just kind of have to keep going until they look like clouds. But just, if your light source is here, just make sure the purple stays to the left and the yellow stays to the right. But they're all about like these little like subtle changes. Also, I think clouds are super hard. It has taken me a really long time to be able to paint clouds. But I feel like once you kind of get the hang of it, they're really nice and relaxing to do. And I hope that you try to paint these clouds because I love them. I think they add a lot to the painting and they're just kind of fun. It is really peaceful. Once you feel like they're kind of at that spot where it's like, okay, they look like clouds, but they're definitely missing something, that something is a white highlight. So, you're just gonna dip into your white. Now, you can just go straight in with white, or you can mix this into like your highlight color a little bit, just so it's not straight white, but it's a much lighter color. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm making, this is like basically a off-white kind of cream color, and you just kind of go in with a little bit of highlights, just like kind of right over where your yellow is. And then if you mix this and you find it's not intense enough, go in with pure white. Okay, and then I want to actually pull some yellow into the water, and I just want a little bit in the water. I'm taking my big flat brush, I just wiped it off on a paper towel, and I'm just going to pull straight across. I'm going to pull some of this yellow into the bottom section. Just going to blend it down here. Okay, and then in the sand I want more variation, so I'm going to pull a little bit of purple into the sand, and I'm just kind of stamping this purple to kind of make a little bit more like depth to the sand instead of being so flat. And you could even take your blending mop brush and kind of blend that in. Okay, and then I'm going to go in and add a little bit of some waves into the background. And so now I have this nice like dark purple color, and I'm just going to put in little tiny horizontal lines for waves in the background. Okay, so now I'm going to take this mop brush again, and I'm just going to pass through a couple of times. I'm going to blend these lines together. Okay, and now I'm just kind of going to put in a little bit more shadow into these clouds. Okay, and that completes this video of our pink, purple, bluish shoreline. I hope you enjoyed this video. I had so much fun recreating it. Please let me know any questions, comments, thoughts in the description below. This is actually going to be a part of a collection that I'm going to be launching. And it was inspired by a meeting that I did a long time ago, just with some different colors, some added clouds up there, and more details in the water. It's still wet. so you can see the shine on it, but I'm going to sign it, varnish it, and add it to my website shortly. So thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe and like the video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye everyone!